Welcome back to the We Was Banking podcast. I'm your host, Brandon,
I'm your other host, Chanel.
and we are back to talk about Industry Season 3, Episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
The first episode of the new season of Industry. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of the episode. Well, actually, I will try. Matino Ha Loro in
Oh
Boca.
yeah, I forgot it's that phrase they said. Yeah.
Matino Ha Loro in Boca is episode. And I'm so happy that we're doing this show because I absolutely love this show so much. I have a lot of thoughts about this show, macro
Another good
thoughts.
recommendation from me.
The first one. I have a lot of macro thoughts about this show.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, those of you listening on podcasts on Apple, Spotify, on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a review. If you leave us a 5-star review, we'll read it on the show. So please do that. It helps us out a lot. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like or subscribe to the channel at the We Was Watching YouTube page. And if you want to email us and talk about this show, what you expect to come up, the characters you all love or mostly hate, you can email us at wewasdragonspod@gmail.com and we'll read those
By the
emails
way,
on the show.
there's some work I've been doing in the background, and so we are also launching our Twitter, our X profile, which is right now is at We Was Banking, and the app will change whenever we do a new show, but I guess the at is how you find us right now. So maybe I'll change it to We Was Watching Podcast. Anyway, look us up. Please follow, and I think that'll be good for us to start giving you guys like updates for, okay, maybe we need to like record a different day or the podcast didn't record will come out next week, whatever. Like you can actually get updates from us there. So please head over there.
I'm taking over Chanel's bullshit time today because I don't want to hear about Star Island or whatever the fuck, Love Island. But
you don't want to
I
hear
do
about
want to
that,
tell Chanel that I watched Presumed Innocent on Apple.
You did.
Yes, I watched Presumed Innocent with my wife, and
love that.
I was right for once.
Mm-hmm.
No, I wasn't right. I thought I was right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I wanted, like I said, I wanted to know if the twist was what you thought it would be.
No, but I found out that that's not the twist that was in the book. Like they made that just for the show, which is interesting.
Got it.
And it wasn't. They made a movie about this too, with Harrison Ford back in the '90s, and that wasn't a twist in the movie either. So they changed it from the book and the movie for the show.
I actually didn't know that there was a Harrison Ford. That would make sense. Harrison Ford used to eat those rolls up.
Raul Julia was in it too, which is crazy.
Who?
Raul Julia played M. Bison in the Street Fighter movie.
Oh.
And so
yeah, you lost me on that one.
They changed it for the show, and I believe that they're getting a season 2, which I thought that this was a limited series.
Yeah. Would it be anthological?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
A lot of people, like a lot of the film people, a lot of the critics, they want it to be following Tommy next season, Peter Sarsgaard, because they thought he was the best actor on the show. So I don't know. I wasn't expecting it to get a season 2, but it did get renewed for season 2. So I enjoyed it. It was something good to watch. Apple is still the best streaming service to me. I've yet to watch a show on there that I don't like. But you had talked about that, so I wanted to tell you that I watched it.
No, I mean, I actually very much appreciate that because you said you didn't expect the twist, and that was what my question was. Like, do you see this twist coming?
No, maybe we'll talk about it at a later point once it gets old enough so we don't spoil it for anybody. But there's definitely a twist.
It's mad old. It could just be me, but I literally feel like that shit can't. I feel like when I watched it, I couldn't believe.
Like 2 weeks ago. It's not that old.
No, it's been okay, but I think it's been out for a minute though. I think they just did like a really, really big pitch.
Are you talking about like maybe it was out before then?
No, I'm saying like it came out in June.
Yeah, the last episode.
To me, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, but the last episode was July 26th. That's 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow! Okay,
yes.
Got it.
See.
Guess what? I got Instagram going, but there's another complication, which is that the ratio is not right for Instagram. But we got it for next time.
Streaming, which I have to figure out, but it's fine.
Okay, we'll do it for next time. Okay, guys, if you are seeing us on Instagram and it looks crazy, we're just trying this out so that when we record our podcast, you can see it across all the socials. All right, bet. Thank you for your bullshit time. That really wasn't a lot of bullshit time, so I just want to add a little bit more, which is to say that the Love Island reunion is filming. It's coming on Monday. We will definitely be talking about that. And as Brandon said, Industry was a show that I want the shows that I like to get big. I really do. But when I tell you I'm an OG, like I've been watching this shit since it came out, and it was just weird and sexual. And I am feeling protective of this show. But then also, I went back and watched it a second time in preparation for this, and which is very bingeable because I literally rewatched it in like 2 days. And I realized I feel differently about Harper this time around. She makes me anxious now. And at first I wasn't really like paying her no mind, but now I'm just like, how is she the way? Like, I know I was always worried about her, but now I'm just like, I do not like this girl. So we're going to have a very interesting season.
Welcome to the party.
We're going to have a super interesting season. Yeah, I like not liking who you like and vice versa. I don't like being on the same page. It's very boring.
So this show is very interesting to me because I see people compare it to Succession, and I can totally see how people get Succession from this show, from the dialogue, from the characters all being terrible. This guest stars that come on the show always eat up scenery, just like on Succession. But this show, I saw somebody say this, and they put it in a perfect way that like there's something more palatable about Succession than this show for the masses. Like this is in the Sunday time slot, right? So it used to come on like on a random Monday, just on Max. But now
I'm gonna tell you what it is, but you're not gonna like it.
Now it's on the Sunday time slot that House of the Dragon and Succession and all the big HBO shows are. So more people are going to tune in. But if people tune in and they go back to rewatch it, I think people are going to be like really not taken aback. Like people are like too like nervous, but like the sex and like there's a humor in Succession. There's like jokes. There's no jokes in this show.
I don't agree.
It's funny.
Let me tell you what the difference. I'm gonna tell you what. First of all, Succession was not jokes. Succession was funny. They were not like it was funny because of characters. But Tom was always dead ass serious. Greg was always very legitimate, and we were just
serious about Greg.
But Greg was taking himself seriously. So like we find the jokes in the characters, but like Greg was not boomch. Like he wasn't on purpose funny. Like and over time they built those characters in. But I'm gonna tell you what the difference is, and I think you know what the difference is.
What's the difference?
There's black and brown leads in this show, and they're younger people in the show, and people.
I'm not talking about that though. No,
I think it's subconscious.
No, I'm not talking about that in terms of palatable. I'm talking about this. I'm not talking about that. That's true. That's true of any show, but that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the show itself. If you watch the show, like Succession, they had one sex scene the entire show, which was Tom and Shiv, and it wasn't really. I mean, it was like very tame. Like it was like something you would see in a non-rated R movie. Like this show, like the first episode you watch, it's like people hardcore fucking. Like as soon as you turn it on, and I think it will shock people. But what I was trying to say is, as they watch this show, I think people will fall in love with this show because the characters are so compelling. There is a uniqueness to these characters, and it feels very much like modern times. Like it feels like if I were to watch this show in 10 years, it definitely fits this is 2024 or this is 2020. Well, this first came on like 2019, 2020. And then they had the pandemic stuff with Jesse Bloom. And then like this very much feels like a show for this time. And so I think that as this becomes more popular in the different time slot, I think people will really start to like it. But it's going to take some people. It's going to shock some people when you turn on that first episode and watch this fucking show.
I think So yes, I guess I feel the same way, but I have completely different words to talk about it. Like, I don't know if it's palatable because like no one who's watched HBO can ever tell me anything about sex scenes because there's just shows like I remember watching every episode of Hung and waiting for the next episode. Like this is the show that used to play Gigolo. This is the channel for gigolos. Like so I think that
I think you
like
expect
HBO
that when you tune into a show turned gigolo. If I tune into a show
right, but
called Industry about investment banking, I don't expect the first episode to see a gay couple talking about wearing their cum shot to work.
right, but I think what I'm okay, I guess what I'm saying though is like you don't turn on HBO on Sunday and think family time. You just
Well,
don't, right?
no,
You
no.
go with what it right. And so I think that it's interesting because sex and violence and all those things should be on the same like kind of like
Well, yeah,
the
it's
same
not.
parallels. And I don't think people treat them that way. But like if you could watch the Red Wedding over and over and be like, that's my favorite scene, it's literally like that is you know what I mean, that's not palatable, but people loved and ate it up. Or the premiere, the pilot of Game of Thrones is it's implied incest and we just got with it. So it's like
But that
nobody who
also
watches
did
Game of
shock
Thrones,
people, if you remember.
it
Like
did no, it shocks people
originally,
exactly,
and
but
then
like
and
and
that's what
so
I was saying about this show. Once you get
mhm,
into it, you'll get into it. But I think like
I
if
agree.
someone tunes back in, just like, oh, I'm gonna catch up on industry. I texted you. I was like, you did not tell me this show was
I
about
did
Gen
though.
Z
I
and
did. There's
sex.
no way I didn't. I've
You
told
didn't tell
everybody
me
it's
that.
about sex. There's no because we mention it so many times, and I think that like at the most recent times I was just like just watch it. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get to is I hear you. I think that I guess the high level right is you guys should watch the show from the beginning or just go back to our last episode we just posted where we did like a 2 hour recap of the first two seasons. We jumped around a bit, but it's enough to like understand it and then get these characters because everybody starts in a very new place. So I'll be curious to see if you actually need the context of seasons 1 and 2. But I think you will if Harper starts to do her thing again. Like it makes it more grounded when you think about like the bodies that like the bridges she's burned or whatever. But anyway, yeah, I think I would love to. Besides us just debating it, I would love to hear like, is this palatable for you? Is it too much sex? I will say that like I definitely skip the sex scenes because they don't. The only sex scenes that did something for me were the Harper DVD sex scenes. Those I watched for personal reasons. Those really that was my type of time. Everything else, I was like, I'm good. I don't need to see Yasmin do all this in the mirror. Like I'm really over it. But some of the sex scenes are valuable because like something we didn't talk about a lot because I hadn't watched the end of the season 2 when we recorded that recap was like I forgot how the biggest predator of all was that French lady. Like that bitch was a predator, right? And so like her sex scene is
You mean
important
Yasmin's
because
boss
yeah, like
in
her
Rough
sex scene was
Management? Yeah.
important because you see like this very intimate like female sex scene where like Yasmin thinks that they have a thing going and she's literally using her for her
Yeah,
dad's
but
money.
no, but
So
I
it's
want to talk about that really quick before we get in this episode
go
because
ahead.
I looked at that completely different than you. I looked at that as because if you remember, Yasmin this was super excited about it because
Mm-hmm.
even at the dinner time, she like says in French, like, I got myself off thinking about you
Mm-hmm.
the night before. Like she's teasing her. But then
Mm-hmm.
when they actually have sex, she was into it, right? But then after she has sex, her boss says to her that her and her wife have a open relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
once she tells Yasmin that this is basically like, oh, this is okay, I have an open relationship, Yasmin is like no longer into it. Like if you go back and watch that scene, she
Yeah.
was just like
No,
not
I know
into it
you.
anymore.
I just
Like
saw it yesterday, but
she's
or two
all
days ago.
into
But
that like this is not how it's supposed to be type sex. Like it's not.
yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. So I think like going back to that theory of she uses sex as like a powerful tool, and then like this first of all there's a before and after because the way that sex is going to be discussed with Yasmin is going to be completely different moving forward, I can tell.
Oh yeah,
But in
100%.
season 2 what I was going to say is that like with Robert there was a dynamic that was pretty clear. With the boss, I thought that she wanted it to be like the boss first of all I don't think she knew she was married, first of all. So
No, she did.
I think
She knew
Yasmin
she was married. She brought her wife up earlier, but Yasmin thought that she was doing like she was having a secret affair. Like, oh, this is gonna be hot.
yes, I think like I just remember there was like a in between where Maxim is like, No, I think that after they hooked up, I don't actually know if she knew, because after they hooked up, she was like, Maxim, why didn't you tell me she was married? And Max was like, why does that matter? And she's like, oh my God, y'all had sex. So like, I think there was like she really wasn't sure. But the point I'm trying to get to is that I think she felt like there was such a connection and she was so special. So it's like with Robert, it's like, okay, this is how I get my power. With the boss, I felt like she was like, wow, this beautiful French, powerful woman I look up to thinks I'm sexy and like I can play her game. And I think that she was just shocked that like she had got played. I don't know if like I think it makes sense to assume that she's like, oh, I'm not into it because it's not illicit. But at the moment, and even both times I watched it, I thought she was disappointed because she thought it was really a thing. And then the boss really did play her and like honestly kind of a little bit groomed her a little bit. But I say all that to say that that was just funny because like I feel like that slides under the radar with all this other crazy shit that happens on this show. Like, okay, here like Kenny got the worst of it, but like that boss was actually the worst. That was kind of what my bigger point was. But I think Yasmin is like a very interesting character over time when you realize like all the things that she goes through and like the fact that at first, you know, she gets on my nerves, but eventually you're like, bro, she's a real person with layers. And like, you know, for better or for worse, whether she needed the money or not, that bitch got up and went to work. You know what I'm saying? She went to work, she had her shit together, she dealt with stuff that she didn't have to deal with because she absolutely always had enough money to say, fuck y'all, I don't want to deal with you. And she did. So I want to give her credit for that. But yeah, so season 3 is going to be different. I'm curious to see if in 7 episodes we're back where we started. Like, if, you know, is there ever at all a world where Harper's back on the Pierpoint trading floor, or you know, I think I texted you when I finished season 2 again the second time, like, damn, it would have been a very cool season 3 to open up with like DVD, Harper, Eric, and Rishi with their new fund, but we're not going to see that type of energy. And then they also brought Kit Harington, who I don't think I like him anymore. I'm not really like people keep maybe it's like the press is doing it to me, but they keep showing interviews of him like I don't watch House of Dragons and like I'm over Game of Thrones. I'm like, okay, bro, you're bringing it up. We're not bringing it up. You're still talking about it. So I don't know
how. Probably gets every time he walks down the street. Jon Snow, what up, Jon Snow? You know nothing. But he also, Jon Snow.
I guess that's fair. Yeah. So I'm like, I just don't want to hear
like,
his
you ever heard Jason Alexander, who's like Jason Alexander?
They
like
never. George,
like, but he's like a classically trained actor. Like he started off on like stage plays and shit, and then he got George, like this dumb character, and now that's all anyone sees him as.
Well, the problem is American education, but that's a deeper conversation. But yeah, I think that I just like he's playing a very cunty character, and it just feels too. I don't know. I don't have any. It feels too much like he's too good at being annoying. I guess what I'm trying to say. He's annoying me.
Let's get into episode 3.
Yeah,
I have clips for you too, Chanel. I have clips for you. So this episode starts off with out on a yacht, a really expensive looking yacht. It's named the Lady Yasmin. So I was like, oh, this must be her daddy's yacht. And I was like, I thought her daddy cut her off. I guess she came back. She came back to the nest to get back into some of that money.
And so she was morally opposed to her father because he had been grooming young women who worked for him and then paying them off and or having siring their kids basically, and then like dismissing his bastards, like, which I'm only saying bastards, we were just watching House of the Dragon. But anyway, so she was like, I can't fuck with you. And he was like, oh, word. So I'm gonna cut you off completely. So as Brandon just said, she obviously some making up happened for her to get the money back.
So then we while they're here, this opening sequence was wild. There's a bunch of good looking people there, they partying, but Yasmin, she's not really partying like we used to seeing Yasmin. She kind of just sitting over there, kind of moping around, getting up.
Well, it's definitely not her friend.
There's a pregnant stewardess who comes up to her and just
wait.
What?
Wait, the pregnant lady came up to her in the beginning?
Yes. The pregnant
that was the same lady. Okay.
Who comes up to her after somebody on the boat sprays champagne on her, and the pregnant.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell it's the basics of the boat is that it's older fat men and like young girls, and it looks like one of those Dubai yachts where people get paid to get peed on.
It's exactly what it looks like. And the stewardess is like apologizing to Yasmin, making sure she's okay. She tells her she's okay. She leaves and just goes to her room. She goes down under the bed and goes to sleep. Next time we see Yasmin, she's looking so fucking bored, like she just don't want to be there. She gets up, she walks back down to her room, and the pregnant stewardess that we see earlier is basically doing. She's a 69 guy with her daddy.
We see Yasmin's dad pop up from under the pregnant lady. So
no, they were doing 69 because she wipes her mouth.
That's what I said. He popped. Yeah, I said he popped up from under.
From under. And they show his hard dick. By the way,
yeah, it's just they did too much of that this episode, already this season, too much dick. So anyway, she's freaking out, right?
Did we have this conversation?
Context, they made this context this context is very rapey because the next time we see his dick is not in good context. So like this particular penis, I don't want to see anymore. All the other penises, I'm good with casual peen. So anyway, so we see him. She's freaking out because she's in her room with all the rooms, and so yeah, we figure out okay, this is her dad's yacht. She's back in with him. But then the next time we see what that means, we find out that was Yasmin hanging out with her dad before people found out that he was embezzling money.
Why are you spoiling the notes?
Because that's the very next thing.
No, it's not. That's later. What's next thing is she comes back up and she's smoking a cigarette, and these girls on the boat take a picture of her. And in the picture, then we go 6 weeks later.
So her dad is not screening the girls on the boat well at all. Like he's not taking phones. He's not doing NDAs. Like he's doing really rookie moves.
Very much so. Very much so. And then we get a 6 months later graphic, and Yasmin wakes up, and it's a paparazzi asshole like hiding in the trash bin outside.
And she don't have no blinds, no shades. It just, I'm like, you don't have not one piece of equipment in your windows.
Well, she did later. He's taking a picture inside the house. Yasmin grabs her sex toy that the lesbian woman gave her last year as a gift for getting a new job in wealth management. She grabs that to go outside and fight the guy. And so
the guy gets out of the trash can thing he's hiding in and gets hit by a cab.
Yeah, he gets hit by a regular ass car. And then he just kind of gets up and rides on his bike fucking away.
Because he knows he's wrong, basically.
And then Robert comes out. And I'm like, oh, they living together. Robert and Yasmin living together.
I thought they must have been hooking up together because I just assumed that's why. Like I didn't put it all together until the later scene. But yeah, so exactly, Robert's at the house with them.
So then we cut to Pier Point and we meet Sweet Pea, which I laughed every time they called her that. Like they call her.
I cannot believe that was her actual name.
And we meet Sweet Pea and she's doing like a TikTok of some sort, talking about like this is what it's like to be a graduate on the first. Early in the morning at Pier Point, I'm the first person on the floor. I'm about to get that bag, stuff like that. And then she freaks out about it.
Shit.
She's like, "Oh, I don't look good in this lighting," or some shit like that. And she starts complaining about it. Yasmin comes.
No. She says she's cringe. Like she knows she's cringe, but she's like, "This is how I make my money." And when Yasmin comes in, she's like, "Oh my god, I have like 50,000 followers. This is my a full-time job." And Yasmin goes, "Bitch, you're at your full-time job. Put your phone up."
Yeah, Yasmin is talking to herself 2 years ago.
But Yasmin was never. She was, but Yasmin, like the Instagram of it all is very interesting because Yasmin was like that, but only like when people engaged her. Like otherwise, she would just sit there and do her work. Sweet Pea is calling a lot of attention to herself.
So then, Sweet Pea pulls up the article, and you see that picture. That the girl in the boat.
No, Sweet Pea already had the article open. Sweet Pea was in her business before she got on the floor.
And Sweet Pea says like, it's really fucked up how they treating you. Like it seemed like you were having a good time. And Yasmin was like, that picture's out of context. And she says like, but yeah, you must be getting crazy DMs though, because you look good in that picture. And Yasmin was like, actually, I have a very passionate gay following online.
That's a joke.
Before I cut off all my socials. So I guess she canceled all her socials.
See, there's a joke in that. They brought a joke in the script.
Is that a joke or is she just telling the truth?
No, that's a joke. They're saying like, okay, because what they're saying is if a rich girl comes out as a scammer, the gays eat that shit up. They're like, yes, queen. Like, what? It's like the Anna Delvey effect. Yes, like people stand Anna Delvey. Anna Delvey is like still famous to this day for being a scam artist. And like when she got out of jail, people loved that she still wore couture.
I've never
You
heard
never watched
this.
the Anna Delvey?
No,
Oh,
I don't know anything about any of this.
there's a whole Netflix special about a whole Shonda Rhimes did a Netflix adaptation of Anna Delvey's story. She's this chick who kept lying and saying she was a German heiress to try to get a foundation open, and she got so close. Like she almost had a foundation open in her name and had like millions wired to her on the strength. And she used to go around New York and tip everybody she came in contact with, she would tip $100. People loved her. People loved her. So yeah, she's anyway, people when she got out of jail, people to this day like stan her. Anyway, I think that's what they were referencing.
So then Sweet Pea tells her that James Ashford called, and Yasmin's like, "Why the fuck didn't you leave with
What
that
the fuck
shit?"
is that? Yeah. She's like, you talking all this other TikTok shit. What talk about the money.
But that's when we found out that her dad's under investigation for embezzlement of some sort, and he fled the country. Nobody knows where the fuck he is. He's gone.
Yeah, so we'll see that article. Like people, every time people see that article on the screen, they bring it up, and kind of everyone's gonna ask her in some kind of way, like, "Do you know what's going on?" And her story the whole time is like, "I don't." And I actually believe her without having any details. Like, I don't think she would hide her dad, but I do just want to say, okay, maybe, but I do just want to say that no, I don't think she would after what happened. But what I will say about her is it's sad to me because the only reason she stayed in contact with her dad was the money, and then it turns out that like the money's not theirs, and so she is one is good she kept her job and like wasn't too good for the job, but two it's like what does that mean for going back to him saying, yeah, we have generations worth of money, like we have so much money we can't stand it, like when the dust all clears, I wonder if she will literally be like, if she will understand what Harper has been talking about the whole time about like not knowing where, like, because Yasmin will say stuff like, do you wonder what you'd do if you didn't have any money? And Harper's like, what the fuck are you yeah, it's like I will be doing what I did 2 years ago before I got here. So I wonder if we ever will see Yasmin literally truly not have money.
I think Yasmin knows where her daddy is, because why else would she be on that fucking boat if she didn't
But it was
make amends with him? The last time we saw them, he locked them out the house, locked her out the basement, froze her bank accounts, and said, "Go be on your own." That's the last time we saw them interact. And then the next time we see them, they're on a boat partying together.
Well, my assumption is that she made up with him because she needed access to the money, or at least wanted her salary out of the shared bank account or whatever. And then I think within the last 6 months, they found out about the embezzlement, and she has not heard from him. I think because I think that the girls would have taken pictures of. Oh, 6 weeks. Okay, fair enough. But the girls would have taken pictures of her no matter what, just because you're on a boat and you see an heiress and she's smoking cigarettes looking like Lindsay Lohan. Like, you're like, okay, let me take this photo. But you could be right. I just don't think, like, I could see her getting over her dad being an asshole, like, within a year just to get money back. I don't see her, but like if she can't get the money, if the money's not hers to have, and like if she's paying for lawyers in the meantime while they can't find him, I feel like she has no real incentive to hide him. But I could be wrong.
Good point. So then she calls James Ashford, and this dude is getting some eggs out of a coop, and he's like, I gotta come to London. I'm pissed off. I gotta come check on this company that I thought was good, and now I think they've bullshitted me, and I'm on my way to London, basically. And Yasmin is kind of like, that was a lot. And so Kenny comes over, and he's still acting like overly nice towards Yasmin because he's on his redemption tour after getting out of rehab.
Well, I actually think Kenny's just changed. I think Kenny's just a good guy now. Like, I think we have not seen Kenny go back to his ways since he got out of rehab. And so I think like Kenny is actually one of the only characters in this show that actually has changed for the better. Because I really do believe that like Kenny went and did the work and then was apologetic the rest of the time, because we never saw him do that shit again.
That's a good point. Then we meet a new dude named David. We don't see much of him, but they made a point to say his name, so I imagine he's going to be part of the ensemble going forward.
Where was David at?
He was on the floor. He's part of the team. Sweet Pea and him were new.
Oh yeah, there's also I saw a black girl at one point in the very very background, and I like almost drove off the side of the road. I wasn't driving, but you know what I mean. It was like that kind of craziness because we kept saying we didn't see any. But I just want to say, so high level, like because I think the show like slowly baits it out, but I think it's helpful to just state like what's happening, which is that there's an IPO of this new startup, and that's where Kit Harington is going to come in very shortly. It's an energy startup, and what I want to point out is because I started watching. I went back and rewatched the end of season 2 before I rewatched this episode 1 again. And at the end of one thing I didn't say in the recap is my favorite thing about industry is the ad libs or like the sidelines when main people are talking. If you turn the caption on, you will hear Rishi say some crazy shit. You will hear people yell stuff out the floor. And other moments, like when Harper was actually going to the conference room for the HR meeting to get fired, you heard some other people in the conference room talking about ESG. And so they've been building up this talk about like ESG and like smart investing and Anna Dawn and Anna gearing at Future Dawn. They've been building all that up. And I was like, oh shit, this is actually, I didn't know if like from season 2 or 3, they just made some shit up, but it seems like they had been working towards this idea of like, is PurePoint going to try to be a good company? So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. The more I noticed that, so they're doing an IPO of like what's supposed to be like an ESG or like environmental, social good, social governance friendly company. But I think there's just going to be an underbelly to this. The underbelly to the company is what the guy is talking about, the one who's driving in to London. And as far as PurePoint goes, they're actually not sure what the fuck the problem is. And so there's going to be PurePoint. There's going to be the actual
like
company.
Way ahead.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
there's going to be
are.
PurePoint. There's going to be a company. It's just, but I'm giving the high level because the way that they tell the story is not actually, it's hard to follow because you're like, do I know these people already? Whatever. But it's like, there's just going to be 3 parties in this whole episode. And I think for the rest of the season. Yes. So the investors are going to be on the other side of the founder. And that's what he's talking about when he calls, because nobody knows what he's talking about till like halfway through the episode.
So then we cut to Yumi and we see Jon Snow, Kit Harington. His name is Henry Musk on the show. And
really Musk.
Yeah, Henry Musk.
I wonder if they're gonna actually make him like related to Elon.
Lord Henry Musk, actually.
Okay, never mind. He's British.
So Yasmin calls Robert and tells him Robert is at Yumi. Rob's at Yumi, and he calls Rob and tells him
Lumi.
that James
Lumi,
yeah, and tells him that James Ashford, who we just talked about, is on his way to Lumi. Yasmin tells Rob that, get Henry in shape, because Henry's walking around doing like a fake ass interview, and Rob's like, I can't talk to him right now, he's busy. So then we cut back to PurePoint, and Eric comes in, and everybody claps. We find out that Eric just made partner, and that he gets some golden cufflinks. They say it's a gift from the founders. Eric's like, a gift from, it's like the founders were slavers, right?
Well, oh no, because there's cufflinks with the symbol is cotton.
Yeah, what is that noise?
That's a fire truck. Sorry, Jeez. The symbol is cotton. Anyway, no, that's why he's like, there's slave traders. You gave me cotton, like really?
So then we get a scene about then we get a scene about what PurePoint's priorities are, and I have the scene because this was fucking great.
And on the day of his partnership, it's important we credit Eric's work in the trenches. Lumi is just the first in a pipeline of environmental, social, and governance-oriented deals we have, a suite of in-demand, ethical, and social impact IPOs that we've won over our competitors.
It sounds like he read that off a fucking card. Like, I'm a pretty progressive person. I'm not like a leftist, but like I'm a pretty progressive person. I call myself a pragmatic progressive. But when I see people like talk like that, it really irritates the fuck out of me. Because I'm like, you don't have to talk like that to be inclusive. And it almost sounds like you're putting on to like show people this, or like you're being fake. And then particularly when it's a bunch of white men with one Asian man and one woman. It was a black man there too. So one black man, one Asian man, and one woman, and then a bunch of white men in a board meeting talking about this. It just comes off so fucking disingenuous.
Look, ESG is a great marketing tool, and I'm sure it's helped PurePoint's stock price to be included in all the ethical investment baskets, but shouldn't we be wary of increasingly gearing our balance sheet toward a fad?
Excuse me?
Woke investing, greenwashing. So our business model isn't a rigorous balance sheet examination. We just look at the org chart and then Chatham House rules apply. Pray that the CEO is a black lesbian with one leg. Then without
That's so good, man. That is so,
what is the point of him even saying that? That's so ignorant.
That's exactly how like conservatives talk, right? Because when they're trying to like make a point about inclusion, they never just say like a woman or a black person. It's always like the most extreme version of like, this is like a black, like exactly what he said. Like exactly what he said. Yeah. A black lesbian CEO with one leg.
I think it really just proves that like they do not understand intersectionality, because they just think like you're just playing bingo with disabilities, and it's like, bro, like how hard do you think that person's life is? Why shouldn't you invest more in that person? Like, how does like they think they're being funny or like being so smart, and it's like you actually are. What you're saying is probably what you should be doing, but you're trying to make a point out of it.
Meeting her, sign them a blank check. Have I got that right?
I'm sorry. Chatham House rules means carte blanche for bigotry?
Maybe you can leave your cynicism at the door while this trade still has legs.
Pierpoint Asset Management, our private equity division, is heavily invested in these companies. Lumi, Europa Gas, out of Frankfurt.
Momentum is everything. With the successful launch tomorrow of Lumi, the first domino falls and will signal to the market that the other European live IPOs we have in the pipeline will hit.
I thought that scene was excellent because that is.
I thought it was so annoying.
Why?
Because he's just doing too much. Like, I think even if you feel that way, I don't know that you're saying that at a board meeting.
But that's what he said Chatham House rules for. So like Chatham House rules is like, you know, we can talk about anything, even controversial stuff. Like feel free to say how you feel and share your views. You won't be judged on it. Like that's
but nobody was doing. But it's like that's like saying the most offensive thing ever and being like Chatham House rules halfway through. Like you started the convo and you called your own Chatham House rules. Well, this was not a Chatham House meeting.
That's exactly what happened. That's what she called him out for. That's exactly what happened. And so I like that because I found that to be very plausible. Some things on the show, people will say like, "Oh, that's not how it is," and other things people say that's exactly how it is. This sounded very.
No, I think that's how it is. I just don't think that at a partner promotion meeting, niggas are getting on soapboxes saying crazy shit. But I think that it's an opening scene. They're getting. Let me stop being so nitpicky. I get it. I get what they're saying.
Yeah, I just think that white men would feel like they could say that shit. White men with power feel like they can say that shit whenever they fucking want to.
That's true. That's true.
I like what's so funny here though? We'll get to it, but like Eric is like your cynicism. I can't believe you're doing this bigotry. And then as soon as he leaves, he walks up to Adler, I think is his name, and he says, before he leaves, he walks up to the woman who was spoken. Her name is Mila Mena, and then he walks up to Adler and says, "How is she? This is my first time meeting her. Is she good, or is she just another senior woman ticking a box for the corporate ladder or something like that?" And I was like, "God damn, you just was over here talking about like that dude, and then the first thing you ask is like, is this woman just checking a box?" To have like a
I never know with Eric what's authentic and what's not, to be honest with you, because I didn't know if he was testing Adler or really felt that way.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that like he's just saying that because he feels like that's what he has to say as a partner now. Like
exactly,
I gotta talk like this. But yeah, so then Adler comes to him and was like, we gotta cut the core a little bit, and he says, "What about?" He's like, "I hear you got an employee that's like all in the news and shit. And her daddy like ran off and is under investigation. Like, what the fuck's up with that?" And Eric goes, "Oh yeah, that's Yasmin. She's been here for a while. She's jumped from desk to desk. But Ken has really vouched for her."
And sorry, also just context, right? Like in this, this is all in the same this is all like in the same in the real universe where like budget cuts, economy's doing whatever. So he was saying like everybody's getting cut across the board, like in New York. Because if you will remember, like New York and London were supposed to like London was supposed to get absorbed into New York last year, and then Eric fought, like through all the drama, decided I want to keep a tiger team of like smaller people, and I run this office basically. And so he's saying like even though you cut your team, we still need to do another budget cut, and it needs to be whoever the fuck, but we need to prove that you're cutthroat basically.
Yeah. Like I don't think they need to cut anybody. I don't even think they're doing cuts as a company. I think they just want to test Eric. They're like, you're a partner now. Let's see if you can like do the things that are needed to be done. And so they're like, she's an nepotism hire anyway. Why don't we put her out of her misery? And Eric looks so hesitant.
And what's sad about that is she didn't even know she was a nepotism hire until her dad told her. Like Yasmin really thought she had earned her way
it's
there.
Like what was that woman's name? The actress, Lori something.
Who who got her daughter named
the ones
USC.
That was getting their kid, like them kids didn't even know that their parents was doing that shit. They thought they was getting in, and then you come to find out it was all because of their parents.
Well, there was one who didn't really want to go to school, and she was like, I know I didn't get into this bitch because I know I didn't study. So one of them was one of everything, but only her.
So then he was like, listen, decisions, you got, as a partner, you got to make tough decisions, and cuts are a part of the industry. And there's no better motivated than debt. So then we go back to Lumi with Henry and Robert. And Rob tells him that Ashford's on his way. I said he is acting very much like Musk Zuckerberg. He's like yelling at people and shit. And then he's like 5 minutes later, like thanking people and being nice. Like he's very eccentric.
Yeah, I mean, he like, yeah. I mean, you can. The bottom line for me is that like people who are like that are either maniacs or okay, he definitely is a maniac, but I think I'm obsessed with like scam startup stories. So like I've seen the WeWork, I've seen everything about Theranos, I've seen it, whether it's a real life documentary, whether it's a Hulu shit. I watched it all. I've listened to the audiobook twice. Like I'm into it, right? So I think if nothing else, when startup founders are erratic like that, it's very often because they're hiding things. Like that's kind of across the board. We see that like when you hear about somebody who's like throwing something against the wall, or the Uber shit. Watch that too. Like it's somebody who is trying to hold everything together because there's something missing. I feel like that's what he's tapping into, if nothing else, because he's like you said, he's yelling at Robert, who is like his like attache he stays with him during the IPO. But then also when this woman who works for him comes up and gives him tea, he's like, thank you so much. It's like, can you stop? Like, and she's into it. So there's also a very weird dynamic with, I'm curious to see how the people who work for him treat him, because they seem to be like tiptoeing around him, but he's like an asshole to Robert, who is very important to his success. Like, isn't Pierpoint very important?
Well, I think his IPO being he doesn't think Robert's important. He just thinks he's a fucking suit.
Right, but isn't Pierpoint important?
Pierpoint is.
Like,
but he values Pierpoint. He says that later in the call, which we'll get to in a second. But my favorite CEO of all time on television is Lucas Madsen from Succession. I thought Alexander Skarsgård ate that fucking character up. And so I really like seeing these types of characters with talented actors to like just really get into it, like to play a fucking character. I really like seeing that shit on television. So I'm really interested to see how Kit pulls
Did you watch Super Pumped?
No, what's that?
Super Pumped on Showtime. It was the Uber one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
No, is that good?
That nigga was crazy. So yeah. Like all these founders are out of their minds. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like all of them are like, there's a point where it almost didn't work for every story. I think is like something could have went wrong. And so I guess I'm still trying to figure out where I think the thin line is like Uber actually had a product, but like there were so many accidents, people lying, like, you know, people getting assaulted in cars, all that happened early on. Whereas Theranos just never actually had a product, let alone like a product that was faulty. Anyway, we could talk about this all day. I really do love the founder shit.
So Robert tells James that Henry tells Rob that, hey, we got to meet with Pierpoint. Meet with James, and we'll patch Pierpoint in so they can be on the call, on the 3-way call. Then he asks him, like, how long has it been since I've been working on this? He's like, 6 months. And he says, Robert, ever since you got here, my luck has turned. And Robert was like, oh, yeah? For the better? And he was like,
no.
Nah, just walks away. Yeah, which is
and
so
good. Yeah, you see him like diminishing this guy's feedback because he says like, oh, so family and friends funding is like critical, right? Because if you don't get family and friends funding, you can't really get to a stage of getting like Series A and getting big donors. But he's trying to downplay him. But what we heard on that call with Yasmin, even though he was cryptic, is like, this man, whoever this man is, he knows the business. Like he knows where it started, and so he's able to pick up on things that like Pierpoint clearly isn't, and that's what the call is all about.
So then he goes to then we cut back to Pierpoint, and Eric comes down, and Kenny congratulates him, and he's basically saying,
Kenny says, he says, you know, we can make that pasta a la Eric or whatever he says. And I was like curious about how they got that close. And we found out later, but that's another reason why I think Kenny is genuinely the only good person on this show at the moment.
Yes. I don't know.
I'm Kenny Hive. I'm Kenny Hive. That's all.
And so Eric asks Kenny, is Yasmin's head in the game? Like, do we need her? And Kenny vouches for her. Then we come back to Lumi.
Because there's a target on her for sure.
And we get the call. And James has concerns about the IPO. He tells Henry, it looks like you're massaging the numbers. He thinks the numbers are fucking bullshit. And he thinks the earnings report, he's like, the earnings report, you're going to have to put that on your public website. And when everybody goes on that, they're going to know that the numbers are fucking bullshit.
Yeah, he's really clear. He's basically saying, so like on your, there's acceptable ways to take a loss or debt and like show them as something that could actually make you money in the long term, or isn't that basically bad of a debt where like, okay, this is a long-term asset that I'm in, like credit or whatever. It just depends on how you want to play it. But basically he's toying some really fine lines to say that they have less debt as a business than they do, which is basically lying. But he found like a very thin line to do it where it's not necessarily illegal, but it is something where if you look closely, you're like, what the fuck? And because this man has prior knowledge, he calls him out for it basically. And his response is very it's very like, I'm sure it's bullshit. I'm sure like the financials are bullshit, but like his response is very much like, fuck you. That's not like it. My company's fine. Well, yeah. And so he digs his heels in the ground immediately.
Well, James offers to buy back half his shares at $4.30 a share. And Yasmin immediately
he's basically like, he's like, I want to get out right now before this bullshit hits the fan because
well, no, that's not what he was saying. He was saying like, I'm trying to hedge my bets, is what he was saying. He was basically like, I'm trying to hedge my bets. He's like, well, I'll get out. He's like, I'll take half my shares for $4.30, and then we'll talk about the rest after the IPO. Maybe I'll come back in. And then Yasmin gets on the phone and tries to save the deal.
Yeah, I don't think he was ever going to get back in. That was what I.
Well, he was only trying to buy half. He was only trying to buy half his.
Yeah, I think he was trying. I think he was giving back half, but I think it's because to me, it was just like, if I really fuck with the company and I feel like it's going to go down, but I'm not, like, I still was there from the beginning or however he was connected. It's like, he's not trying to, anyway. Yeah. I don't think he has faith in it, but I also think that he's like trying to be reasonable. I guess is what I was thinking.
Yasmin gets on the call and starts hyping Lumi up, and you can see Henry like saying, yeah, that's right. Like, yeah. And he gets on and then he gets on and he says, whoever that was on the call, that's the type of shit I'm talking about. And he's like, so fuck. He basically was like, fuck you. You can have all your shares back at $4.30. Fuck it. And he was like, I'll let the market say how valuable we are. And James was like, all right, then I'll take all my shit back then. All right. He was like, I've always wanted to be wrong about you, Lord Henry. And then he walks off.
Because they wanted to open at 480. And so him saying it's at 430 is him being like, you're on crack. This shit's not opening close to $5. Like that, it's not worth. He's basically saying it's not worth the money that you think you're gonna get. That's like the net of that. But like you said, Yasmin thinks maybe she messed it up, but she basically did what she needed to do. But what Yasmin mentioned was that people like what Yasmin mentioned was that no matter whether or not the company is worth it, people want to buy in the company. And at the end of the day, like demand is kind of like what will drive the stock price, right? Like not necessarily always value in this instance. And so what the sweet peas in the room, and she's like, well, what about like, she's taking it all in. She's like, okay, if we are giving a company with bad numbers, what happens to all the investors 2 weeks in when the stock price tanks? And Kenny's like, honestly, we just need a good day one. Like we're not responsible for the stock in 2 years, a year, 3 months. We're responsible for the stock on day one. So that's like the takeaway, that day one, the IPO is the most important day.
So Kenny then goes and tells Eric what happened, and he says, but Yasmin handled it really well. Like she saved the call. Eric tells Yasmin that he comes up to her and basically gives her a little pep talk. He's basically like, Henry is not a significant voice, but keep a lid on any of the bad shit. Like our goal is to like get this IPO off the floor, and so we got to make it to that point. And he says our job is to sell the story to make the IPO go smoothly. And he was like, yeah, there could be some issues, but I think you, Robert, Henry know better than James fucking Ashford. He's like, I think our people know better than his.
Because they also had done due diligence, right? So like Pierpoint should have caught this. And then interestingly, actually, never mind. But yeah, Pierpoint should have caught this. So there's another team that would have done like the double check to make sure that the debt and all the stuff that Asher caught makes sense. So they do. It is reasonable that they would think this one person is maybe blowing smoke, and it's too close to the IPO for them to like call things off or postpone to.
Another reason this is like Succession is because Succession, we always got like crazy quotes, like either ridiculous shit that Kendall would say or like cool ass shit that somebody else would say or some crazy quote. This show has those too, because Eric says the business is people making money on the hill of dead yellow birds. I don't even know what the fuck that means.
Because what they were saying was this guy is trying to tell us something. What if he's a canary in the whole gold mine? What if he's warning people that like there's gas in the coal mine? Like that phrase comes from, you know this, but for people who don't, like for people who are in coal mines, they might not smell gas that would kill them before it got there. So a canary would like sing if it smelled the gas because they're sensitive to that for whatever reason. So canary in a gold mine is someone warning of like ominous things to come. So he's literally saying this business is built on dead canaries, which is crazy.
So then Eric asks Yasmin, what does she want? And Yasmin's like, I want to prove to you that I belong here. And Eric says, I had a wrecking ball in that chair before you, and I'll just as quickly fire another one. And so Yasmin looks all worried.
That's when I realized that was Harper's chair.
So then we see Harper, and she got like the fucked up 90s short haircut.
Let's talk about this. Hold on. Because I've been thinking about this all day. There are so many 90s icons that they could have. So taking a step back, right? HBO has a big issue with like how they do Black women's hair. So like probably Insecure was the only time we've had like great Black women's styles, like no notes. Even when there was a Black woman on, Sanaa Lathan played an actress on some show.
It was on Succession.
I think it was Insecure. Succession, yeah. And people were mad at her wig. But then people were like, you know what? This could be like some lawyer, like Black women lawyers, they don't have the bust down wigs, they have this, right? So there's a lot of discourse about hair. Season 1, Harper had braids. They made sense. And then I don't know how much they cared about continuity, but like when you are struggling and it always somehow coincides with your braids getting fuzzy, your hair growing out. And so when Harper had that like binger and she was struggling at work and she smelled that day, her hair was looking crazy too. Season 2, she was always in a nice bun. She was all tightly wound,
she
whatever.
Had the fro too. Her hair was looking fire.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Like her when it was business, her hair was back in that bun. When she was out, she was getting fucked up. Hair was out. Her hair looked great. She, instead of having the Nia Long short crimp curl, this bitch has the Cersei shame cut.
It was perfect.
And I'm so mad that they did that to her hair. But she could have.
Did you see what she was wearing? She had this big ass sweater vest.
That's a 90s look. But that's what I'm saying. That's like that Will Smith's, oh my God, that's Nia Long on Fresh Prince. Like that exact look is the 90s look.
She looks so ridiculous.
Her hair was cut so wrong. Yeah, like so basically they gave us a very demure, which is a word that's trending right now for some reason, a demure, humble, quiet Harper. Because the first time we see Harper, this white lady's walking up to her saying, hey, can you take 5? First of all, this was pissing me off. First of all, don't watch me in the break room. Don't watch me in the break room. Don't comment. She goes, hey, can you take 5 seconds to rinse off your recyclables and put them in the recycling?
You're trying to save the planet. First of all, let her save the planet.
But that doesn't take 5 seconds. That's what I think is irritating. Like rinsing everything out is not a quick, like it's a whole thing for a reason. But what's significant is that Harper goes, okay, yep, sorry.
Yeah, because she's
Harper
humble.
Harpsichord Stern would have told her
she's not actually fucking humble, which we'll get to.
Shit and die. Exactly, but she would have told people to eat shit and die in Pierpoint. But here you can tell she's like, you know, something's been. It's just different. There's a reckoning. She clearly didn't go back to school. We don't know if she's like finishing her credits or going to school, but like she basically is working with Anna Gearing. We find that out really quickly because she answers the phone for Future Dawn. And just for people who don't remember, Anna Gearing is Future Dawn is like a ethical investing thing that like she anchored the Rycan deal, or she was like the person that Phelim needed to anchor the deal. And like she wouldn't talk to Harper at first, but Yasmin had the connection. And then we saw Anna when they went hunting with Jesse Bloom and them. Anna Gearing was there. So like we've seen Anna Gearing a lot last season, and now this is who she's working for.
So Harper apologizes. Yasmin calls.
Crazy.
Yasmin calls and Harper apologizes about the paparazzi and says, I should have been there. Like, I heard about what happened. And Yasmin's like, all right, yeah, but I'm calling for work. And she's like, where's Anna? And Anna's like, she's talking to Petra. And Anna's like, and they're talking about like more ethical investment stuff. And we find out that Harper does the diary. So she's like writing Anna's diary, some shit. Like she's not even doing anything. Like no, she's not doing shit.
Diary is British for calendar.
So she's an assistant.
Yeah, she's literally an assistant. She's literally like in charge of when she talks to her at 2 p.m. She asked her to go move her car at some point.
Yeah, and so she agrees with. So she goes in the room to like get her on, tell her that Pierpoint's on the phone, and Petra asked Harper, what does she think about this investment stuff? And then Anna's like, why are you asking her? And then Harper's like, I agree with Anna. I think ethical investment is the foundation of this company. And so since she tells Anna that Pierpoint's on the call, and she gets on, and Yasmin asks Anna if she wants any more Lumi stock. And Anna's like, you only asking me that if somebody dropped out. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah, because like the IPO is like 2 days. Why is there stock available?
And she's like, we're really heavily invested in Lumi. So if I need to know something, you should tell me. And then Yasmin was like, let me call you back. And hangs up.
I love when they do that. They literally, one time Kenny called somebody and then he said, let me call you back. What? Do you know how mad that would make me?
So then Anna tells Harper to make sure that her diary's printed out. She likes it physical, not digital, and to go move her car. So then we cut back to the crib, and Yasmin's putting up blackout blinds over her windows. And Henry Musk calls her and tells her that Rob gave her her number and he wants her to meet her later. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So then we go back to Future Dawn at the end of the night. Anna comes back and asks Harper if she moves the car. Harper's like, oh shit, I forgot. Harper's the last person there, by the way. It's Anna, Petra, and Harper. They're the last people in this fucking building. The lights are even out. Anna says, like, displaying total incompetence is not going to expedite your move to trading. And I was like, and I wrote, this is me writing shit, predicting the future. I wrote in my notes, she will cutthroat someone to get there soon enough, is what I wrote in the fucking notes. Mm-hmm. And I said, and then my next line, as soon as I say that, she goes into Petra's office and she says the exact opposite shit of what she was saying earlier. She says ESG is a fucking fad. Ethical investment is a fad. She doesn't think cheap green energy is for the masses. Like, we should get out of this shit. She's like walking and talking with Petra. And then Anna's at the door. She's like, oh shit, at the elevator. Anna forgot her keys. And then she starts walking back to Anna saying the exact opposite shit that she was just saying to
She says to Anna, I was just drafting an apology email for forgetting to move your car. And I'm like,
she's the worst. She's the worst.
Okay, so hold on. I will say this though, because I remember what you were saying, and you're very suspicious that Harper is a terrible person who is on everything she does is on purpose. I think that Harper is a bad person. I don't think it's I don't think it's as well planned as much as I think whenever it comes out, she's going to choose the selfish thing. This, though, I do think I think she's going to be between she has a plan and she's been, her fire is dimmed a little bit because like she's not making it back onto any bank. She's not gonna, so like unless she is a startup founder, right, or like some other shit, she's not getting into the floor again because she doesn't have that degree. And even if she does, like whatever, I don't think it's gonna happen. So I think there's gonna be a blend here in how we see, because even she's dating some guy, like they sit up and watch TV, but they sit up and watch TV together. She would never sit up and watch TV with no, before it was just cocaine and random hookups, and that was it. Like, so I do think she's changed a little bit. I'm curious to see how real it feels, but I don't want you, like, if she does something bad, I don't want you to be like, oh, she was planning it all along. Like, we don't know.
She literally waited till Anna left and then went to Petra and said, everything I said earlier was bullshit. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you want to hear.
If I disagree with my boss, I'm going to make sure they're not there no more.
Get out of here. So then Harper asks she asks Anna if they can have a dialogue about the firm's investment choices. And Anna was like, first, let me apologize with my tone earlier. I've just been a little stressed out. But also, she's like, I don't want my employees to feel like employees. And Harper was like, but we are your employees.
But also, Anna's full of shit.
Yes.
Because why are you talking? Like, when I walked in, you was like, why are you asking me something like an idiot? Like, you acting like I'm so dumb, as if I didn't come from fucking Pierpoint and as if I didn't go to college at all. And then all of a sudden later, you're like, oh, we're all a big happy family. First of all, don't work for anybody who calls it a family. One. Two is, I will say this about Harper, though. Harper, I'm going to put some of this on Anna. And the reason why I'm going to put this on Anna is because Harper clearly knows that Anna's not the type to allow open challenge, because the fact that she had to ask her if we could have a dialogue about it later means that Anna's not the type to be like, hey, come in here and like prove me wrong. Like, tell me what I'm wrong about, even though Harper obviously has the expertise to be able to do that. So I do think to some extent Harper's not in an environment where she's encouraged to like Eric encouraged her to be a sniper. Eric encouraged her to come in from behind, give somebody a side eye, win the race like Sha'Carri. She's like, I want that for you. But Anna seems like the type she's like, I'm number one, because like she has this person who's kind of slowly hinting, whoever that lady is slowly hinting like, I'm leaving this fun if you don't trust me to make my own decisions. So anyway, I just want to say that I feel like that's relevant.
Then we go to some random old ass building in London, and Henry's there with some old dudes playing handball. And Henry introduces her to his uncle, Lord Norton.
All kind of lords and dukes and fucking
some
knights.
Dude who owns a newspaper and a dude named Reynolds. He just says, oh, and here's Reynolds.
Reynolds must work for them. Like, Reynolds is just in the back.
And they think, they're talking behind their backs. Like, I think they know her from somewhere. And Lord Norton says, that's Charlie Hernandez's daughter. And so they apologize to Yasmin about the newspaper coverage. He's like, I empower my editors.
You're so fucking fake.
But a lot of people are mad at your dad. He should come out of hiding and stop letting her daughter get all the bad press and all the attention.
Like, do you understand that this nigga probably owns the Daily Mail? That's probably the implication, that this man owns like the biggest gossip rack. And he goes, my bad. You know for a fact that, like, first of all, you don't have to mention it. She doesn't know who you are and what you own. But it's just such a backhanded apology to be like, hey, I know, like, because mind you, we've seen this article all day, right? People have been talking about it all day. And he's just like, the guy who owns it is casually like, hey, thanks for the clicks.
Henry, they're talking back and forth to Yasmin, and she's like ready to go. And Henry says, hold up. And he walks over to her and he's like, look, I know what it's like to have family members ruin your life. Kids are always the collateral. You did great work earlier. Thank you. And I just wanted to say that to you, essentially. And then so when Yasmin leaves, and then
by the way, she got a random call from this man when she thought, like, when the paparazzi's after her. So like, yes. He went out of his way. Like, we'll hear more about it later, but he didn't just call her to say thank you, because she's not even his coverage. Robert is his coverage. So he clearly is like, he's creeping me out already.
Well, yeah, he wanted her to see her with his shirt off.
Yeah, he creeped me. And she's like, what the fuck? I was at home. You made me leave my house to do, like, you can't pay me enough money to get me out of my bed at 9:37 to come watch you do this bullshit.
So then Otto Musk, his uncle, comes out and he says that he's having lunch with Gregory Clark and he needs some Lumi stock. And so he wants Yasmin there to kind of broker the deal. And Yasmin's like, you should probably talk to somebody at the CPS desk, not me. And then he tells her, like, well, your daddy owe a lot of people money, including people at my club. So why don't you stop by as his proxy? And I wrote, everyone is horrible. Everyone in this show is horrible.
Yeah, no, I thought that he was just saying, like, maybe the trading thing is what it is. Yeah, but he was basically just like, bitch, bring your ass because somebody's going to pay this bill. Basically, that's all he's saying.
So then we cut to Yasmin and she's at dinner with her lawyer / friend. Yasmin's telling her that the photo's out of context. She wasn't partying. Her lawyer asks if there are any financial implications for Yasmin. She says that, like, our family divested, so no. But people are suing me directly. And the lawyer's like, but they don't have really no case. And she's like, no, they don't have no case, but I still got to pay lawyer fees for that shit. If only everybody knew I was broke. Then she looks to the right and she sees Eric out of her corner of her eye. And she's like, oh my God, my boss is here. And she's out to dinner with someone that's not his wife. Eric gets up and comes over. And the first thing Eric says is, I'm separated from my wife. I want to get out ahead of that, but I'm on a date. And then the lawyer says, like, well, how's the date going? And he goes, she keeps talking about her kids, and one of them is transitioning. That's not really my area. And
he's like, that's not my expertise.
And the lawyer says, well, why don't you join me? Join us. And then Eric is like, all right, let me cut bait really quick, as nice as I possibly can be, and I'll be back over here. And then Yasmin's like, why the fuck would you do that? Now I can't go nowhere. And her friend was like, I love old dogs with new appetites. That's what she said.
Eric is not the one to be like around in the middle of the night, but okay.
So then we see Rob, and he in his bed with his girlfriend, who is the new girl from last year. Isn't that her?
Yeah, the annoying one, yep.
And he gets out of his bed to go to Nicole's house. And next thing you know, they fucking on the kitchen counter. And in the middle of it, she tells Rob that you're a useless little boy, and her talking down to him gets him off. So then they go outside and they're sitting outside, and Nicole's asking him different things, and she looks at him and sees his necklace that the girlfriend gave him, and she's like, "Oh, did your girlfriend give you that? Oh, isn't that cute?" And then she's like, "Why do you stay here after we fuck?" And Robert was like, "Oh, here I thought we was making love." And
another joke.
And he was like, "I don't know why I stay." And then she says, "Yeah, because you need some tough CEO to tell you done well." And Rob was like, "I don't need that shit." And Nicole's like, "Yes, you do. That's all you need. That's all you want. You want someone who's a functioning. You want a functioning codependence with someone as fucked up as you are."
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
So I just watched that last episode where she picks him up from jail after he basically had iced her out in the end of the last season because she, like, all that shit blew up about her sexually assaulting the women, and she tells him, get out then if you don't fuck with me. And he's basically like with her because it's weird, like Oedipal complex shit where like your mind's like it's giving mom and his mom's gone. And then also like they both are poor people and they're rich people playing rich people's game, but like, and they have the money, but they don't feel like they have the money, and like they can't, whatever, the accent, the whatever, right? So they have all these things in common. Right, and Nicole talks about how like it makes people mad that she's rich and she shouldn't be rich, right? And so, or it's similar to like when they went to Berlin and Jackie was like, it doesn't matter how much money I make, I'm never going to be in these circles. And she was just like talking out loud like that. That's what I think we talked about this on the recap. That's what like a lot of white people in this space talk about. Like they speak to the experience of being othered, but I don't know that it even connects to like people of color, even in those instances. So they have a very weird relationship because clearly, old girl, I don't even remember her name. Her old girl would be really offended if she found out that Robert was not just cheating on her, but cheating on her with the women who like sexually assaulted her, yes, and also who like caused a lot of issues at Pier Point at the end with him, their career, whatever. But like she she would also never understand it because it's probably a part of Robert she doesn't understand. Because like when Robert fell off the wagon last season, it was because he went to see his dad and had a really, really awkward, like bad reception with his dad, and she judged him that night for getting drunk. And like him getting drunk was why she showed up to the dinner with Nicole for whatever fucking reason. And so anyway, she doesn't get that part of him and probably never will because of her upbringing. And so there's like, that's kind of some of the deeper layered shit of the show. And then one small thing is that they say tough CEO, but they're saying tough, which is like haughty and like superior. So that's what she's saying, like, oh, you want like a tough CEO to like make you feel good. So they are always talking about the class differences.
So together. Then we get to Eric, the lawyer, and Yasmin. And this was interesting because she invites Eric and Yasmin over to her house, the lawyer. Eric says he promised himself he would say yes to everything he used to say no to. Then we cut to
Yasmin is like, Yasmin is like, please, like, come on, this is not only is this her boss, this is Eric, dog. This is not a regular boss. And her friend is like, I need to get my freak on. I need to get my groove back. She's like, with him, there's so many men and you want it. Okay. All right. I guess we'll go.
Next time we see Eric, he is fucked up. Like he's doing.
They're all fucked up. They're high as shit.
Watching live, he's like this. He's like rocking back and forth. And so
they're all on coke.
I have 2 back-to-back scenes from this scene.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Try to vibration.
I won't do it. It's not who I am.
Not what the newspapers imply. Kidding. I haven't done blow since 9/11.
Such a great fucking.
Wait, pause. That got me. This whole scene, first of all, they acted out a people getting high who shouldn't be high together scene so well. Like we've seen like Rishi and Harper get high together and that brings them closer or whatever. Like Mark and the guys that got, not Mark, Greg and Rob and them last season. This shit had me crying because Eric says 2 things this scene that I was like, this has to be the title of the episode. Either what he just said or what he says at the very end. But my question is this: why would 9/11 have been the last day? Like
stressed out. That's probably
on Tuesday, September 11th, around 11 a.m. you were doing blow, or did you do blow that night? This is what this. That's not the right drug to do after a tragedy.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
Okay. Keep going.
No, really, it's just not who I am.
Me neither.
Yeah, I'm lying. This is what I'm good at.
Yasmin knew her ass was fucking lying. That's all she does.
Like, that's not who I am is crazy.
On Pierpoint, I sentence you to a line. Fat boy.
Yeah!
You go.
All right, and then we have this other scene of Yasmin and Eric basically having a heart-to-heart.
What's the deal with you and Wolf Tone? Kenny?
Oh,
That's his last name, by the way. I looked it up. Kenneth Wolftone.
God, how do you know about that? I mean, it was brutal at the time, but I think
wait.
Also,
hold on. Wolftone was a revolutionary Irish independent figure, so maybe they named him that. But also, like, he's like an Irish. That would make sense to call him that.
Balance.
He pushed me hard on rehiring you. He took me in. After my wife kicked me out, I sort of lost 3 days to Jim Beam. I went to Kenny. He and his wife were very kind.
looks like Robbie Williams turning up at Elton John's, like the page of Saint, the pissheads.
I shouldn't have shown him that side of me.
Let me level with you. I am terrified of you because I want to be seen by you, but right now, like, I feel seen by you, and I'm not scared of you.
I do feel like we've just skipped several awkward stages of a relationship.
Right, and then let's try and remember that feeling when we're sober, you know, because I do want to impress you. Eric, you're kind of a fucking rock star on our dad.
Keep talking. I shouldn't need the validation. I just bailed on therapy.
Oh, I've never done it. I'd be so scared about what...
Nothing is less surprising in this show than Yasmin saying, I've never done therapy. There's not a single thing ever said in the show that's less surprising than that.
would actually come out of my mouth.
Yeah, a lot of money to just talk about your parents.
Right.
Where's your father?
Oh, I really wish people would just stop asking me
Dog.
that.
Oh no, sorry. But like, that's like asking somebody, did you murder those people? Like, you get super high and you go, hey, did you commit that crime? And I do think it's just the cocaine. I don't think it's like he had an agenda. I think you're just that high.
Yeah, he said it so pleasantly too.
How do you feel about it now?
I hate the way it makes me look. What did you and Harper have that was so special?
There was nothing special. You don't have to be anything like her, you know. I'm baffled she's gotten another job in the business.
Yeah, well, I kind of twisted Anna's arm on that one. I took Anna out to a bunch of dinners and I had to pay for them. Are you gonna fire me? We can keep dancing around it, but you know, it's on my mind and we're here now, given our current situation.
It hadn't crossed my mind. Well, that's not entirely accurate. I do have to let someone go.
I love how he said that. He's doing it with like a big ass smile on his fucking face. It's the funniest thing.
He's an asshole.
Who?
Someone worth letting go, associate or above. I don't want to, but if I don't do it, they'll think I'm weak.
Right, but Robert and me are the only associates on the desk. And he's made himself completely indispensable, managing Mark.
He's indispensable till the IPO launches, then he's more dispensable.
Oh.
Why did you put in a good word for Harper?
I think that deep down, Harper is a good person.
I don't think she is.
I agree with you, Eric. I agree with you. And so then the lawyer had basically already taken her shirt off. She was doing like a handstand and some shit. She was really fucked up. And then she comes over and she starts sucking on Eric's finger. And like Yasmin is standing right there. And then they look over and Eric's like, can you get the hell out of here? And Yasmin's like, yes. And she's like laughing.
Wait, also, by the way, when she sucks the finger, she does it to suck his ring off and spit it across the room, which is kind of hot. And
then she says, and then Eric says, I probably shouldn't take Cialis on blow. And then
that's my favorite quote. That's it. Because he just, we've seen a lot of people get high. We've never had they've never used it in this very strategic way to like get they got a lot out of those characters in that moment. Like we low key get exposition like in a non-characteristic way for this show. And so I really actually enjoyed this scene.
And so then we, the next morning, we got cut back to Robert. Then they fell asleep outside in the fucking rain. He wakes up. He taps on Nicole. And she just falls to the ground and you see her and she's fucking dead. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
Bruh, I scream. First of all, you see her nose is bloody and she's white as a sheet. And so when she falls, she thuds. She's been dead for hours. And I'm telling you, I almost went up in the back of the couch. I was screaming. I was like, there's no fucking way that this just happened. Like, he's not even supposed to be with her. He's cheating on his girlfriend. This is a client. He's not supposed to be fucking a client. There's all the drama with Pierpoint. And she died on him. And then this is where I'm telling you what happens next is when I said, I know I'm supposed to suspend reality, but something about this this next day, how this unfolds for Robert doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But okay, we'll keep going.
He calls the police. The police show up. They're taking away her body. He calls Yasmin, and he's just all distraught and shit. And
yeah, she's like, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Haha, wait, what?" Like then she's like, "Wait, are you good?" And he says something basically just like everybody dies. And she's like, "Haha, I know."
Yasmin if he's cursed. And
yeah.
then she goes,
"Which
what are you talking
they
about?
they all at some point turn to each other and go, "Am I cursed?" It's
yes.
not funny. It's just so fun. Like it's like, or y'all are just. Have you ever thought y'all are bad people?
So then we I skipped the scene, but I skipped the scene earlier, but basically what happened was they went to the house, and that's when we find out that Robert, Harper, Yasmin all live together in the same.
Yeah, I did not see that happening.
And
I did not
Harper's
see that
boyfriend
coming.
comes in, and he's just like, "Hey, Harper, come upstairs and watch TV when you're done." And then Harper leaves and says, "I'm gonna go upstairs and keep making bad decisions." I forgot about that. I skipped over that, but that's what happened.
Yeah, Robert. And so that's when we found out why they're still so close. And I think what makes sense about that for me is that like they've been through so much. Like they're the only round of like people who are at some point so tied to peer point, right? Like from that original class that was close. And so I think what I like, obviously, the show is like kind of doing a favor for us, like or for themselves to keep them all in the same place. But what I liked about it was like this acknowledgement that they had bonded to a point that it would make sense for them to all live together. And also like because I think I remember we were talking about the season and I hadn't finished it yet. I was asking you, I don't remember, how did Yasmin and Harper make up? And what happened at the end of the season 2 was that they kind of just had a very honest moment with each other. Like, damn, I said some crazy shit. You said some crazy shit. We probably shouldn't have did that. Like, let's move forward. And so I think this is a very interesting place to start the show. So I'm actually very excited that they're all together because that's just going to give us a lot of things that having them at Pure Point wouldn't have given us because there's so much work drama, and this is going to give us like that moment. So while this is also very important, while they're all in the kitchen, two things. Yasmin goes off on Robert about giving her phone number to Jon Snow, and Robert is like, okay, first of all, we all work for Peer Point, like whatever. And then come to find out, for whatever reason, that nigga called her home phone. He called her like personal phone, not her work phone. Yeah. So somehow that man is already stalking her on the level where he, like, first of all, just call her work. That was so egregious. So I'm already like not comfortable with how this nigga is moving towards Yasmin. And then also Harper comes up to her, and this is why I was like, okay, I feel like Harper's changing a little bit. But basically Harper comes up to her like, you know, she said something encouraging, but when she does it, she touches her head, and we get a moment and a flash of Yasmin on the yacht with her dad. It's like 3 shots of like him coming at her, his penis again, and then him on top of her and her screaming. And so clearly he attacked her on the boat. I'm praying we don't get any more of those flashbacks. I really don't need, like, I didn't need any more of it. It was so traumatic. But like, she clearly is going through a lot more than what she's even putting out. Like this whole first 2 seasons, it's been like, okay, rich girl going through it, wanting to be validated. We get it. But like, but then her dad the thing is, her dad creeped me out from the fucking beginning. Because when her dad went to that meeting with her and the French lady, and he like wore his biker shorts and had a heart on when he got up, I was like, this is beyond rich guy asshole getting divorced trying to prove a point. And so I'm just praying the show doesn't feel the need to give us like a full-on like rape scene to like make a point. Like I feel like we get the point. Let's like, we don't have to. They love showing sex. We don't need to see that. And so I'm just praying that we don't go there. But all that to say, like, Yasmin, that's why I don't think Yasmin is hiding her dad, because I think he attacked her, and I think she's like actually done with that nigga. And then on top of that, the world is done with him, and I think she has no incentive to like hide him, unless she killed him. But I doubt she killed him. I feel like that's a different type of show.
So then we see Sweet Pea at Pure Point, and she's basically taking care of Eric's kids, and she's like, his wife dumped these kids on me. Kenny's freaking out about the IPO because
So Eric said she's punishing me. He's like, with your kids?
Oh yeah, that's later. Yeah. Penny's freaking out because Eric's not here. Yasmin just showed up late and Rob is nowhere to be fucking found. Eric comes in all fucked up in the same suit from last night, his shirt all disheveled. He just looks fucked up.
Well, Yasmin comes in first and they go, where's Eric? She goes, why the fuck would I know? And I was like, good cover. That's a good cover. Because why would you know?
That tells me you would know because you overreacted.
No, I do think it's like, why would I know where my boss is? I don't talk to that nigga every day. I just be coming in, he be coming in. Like, I guess she just, instead of her saying, I don't know, she was like, why would you I don't understand why you asked me, which, okay, I just felt like it was a good cover. And then go ahead. Rishi, who is a terrible person, but still comforting. I'm comforted to see the original people in the show still.
Rishi is basically flirting with Sweet Pea. It's like they're fucking. I think they're already fucking.
Okay, they're fucking, or okay, what I was hoping was that it was just like sometimes in these workplace comedy dramedies, there's a element where like women are actually comfortable with some of the uncomfortable stuff, and it goes both ways. Like it's kind of like, okay, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I'm like sensitive to everything. I make the same jokes, like we can have a good time, whatever. And I want to be careful when I say that, because I'm not saying like, oh, you have to be cool, you have to be a bro. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying like there is a workplace where it can be like, yeah, he jokes around, he talks shit, but like we're all good. That's what I was hoping it was. I didn't assume he was fucking her, but that would only make sense for the man who had sex like literally 2 hours before his wedding ceremony.
She kind of winked at him afterwards, after the comment.
Well, she winked at him, but I felt like she winked. I felt like, because what happened specifically was that he said something about, he said, look at your heels, Sweet Pea. You're already preparing Eric's daughters for the pole. And for the stripper pole. And she says, how dare you objectify me? Keep doing it, which is a joke that I would make with a friend I felt very comfortable with personally, right? If I felt very comfortable with this friend and I felt like he understood that like we're not actually having sex, he can point out that I look good. That's what it was giving for me. Now, what you're saying is valid. I was just like, they must just have this rapport, but he probably is, knowing Rishi and knowing he's a bad person. Yeah, they probably are fucking. That would make more sense.
I think the worst of everybody on this show.
No, that would make more sense. I mean, and when you say it, I'm like, I'm naive for thinking it was just like a banter. Because last thing I want to say is the way I took it was that he was like, I felt like he was at first concerned, like, oh shit, did I cross the line? And then she was like, I love it. And he was like, oh, okay.
Rob comes in, he's a fucking shell of himself. And then Rishi makes a joke to him and tells Rishi to fuck off. But he says it very serious, like, he's not joking. And then he just breaks down crying. And then Eric is
cried so legit. Like it was very much a weep. He just wept on the floor.
Eric's like, leave the desk. Like, we're going for a walk. We need to go talk.
Do you have this scene, by the way?
Yes, this scene was fantastic.
This is a scene to have. Yeah, okay.
I'm really embarrassed. That was so unprofessional.
Don't apologize. Sometimes things just bubble up. What happened?
I lost the client.
Huh? That's all?
That shit right there.
Where are you meant to be right now?
At the stock exchange with Lumi.
Look at me for a second. Are you going to stop being such a pussy? Look at me. Say it with me. I'm a man, and I'm relentless.
I'm a man and I'm relentless.
Good. Now, say it properly. Stay with me.
I am a man and I'm relentless.
I'm a man and I'm relentless.
I'm a man and I'm relentless.
I'm a man.
I am a man.
And I'm relentless.
I am a man.
I'm a man.
I am a man.
And I'm relentless.
I'm a man and I'm relentless.
Now, go to work. Now, we do our jobs.
Wait, what did you want to talk about?
This was so like, trigger is not the right word because trigger implies a negative connotation. This was so familiar to me, as like an athlete, because this is the exact type of like motivation that you get in the athletic world. And to the outside, it can appear very toxic, but like in that world, it usually only happens when the coach actually cares about you to that sense, especially if they like pull you off to the side and talk to you like that. Like that's very much like something that would happen on in a football locker room or on the practice field or something like that when you're going through some shit, and your coach will try to get to you in like a very like toxic masculinity in the most positive way that toxic masculinity can be. And so Eric doing that with Robert is like his way of managing him to like get him out of this funk, at least to the point that he can get through today. That's very important to everybody else's there, because it's not just his livelihood that's going on with this. And so I thought this scene was masterful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make sense in general that is how you pump people up in this environment, because all the bullshit that we've seen. And I don't think it's necessarily like what I thought was more compelling than anything is how he described what happened. Like, I lost a client is a crazy way to say I woke up next to a dead woman that I've been like one of the only people I really feel connected to in this place, who also is like in her own way a monster. Like, you know, like that, like I lost a client, I think is like actually super duper deep. So I definitely appreciate this scene, and I can see how like it would remind you of, you know, athletics. What I thought about though, as far as just the motivation of it all, was like that wears off. You know what I mean? Like the only thing about that is like that will get you through maybe a couple more hours, but like the way my brain works, at least ADHD, is I would forget about being relentless in like 3.5 hours. Like
That's
you
got
to give me something more than that.
That's what it was
yeah,
for.
it was just
to get you through this morning, to get this IPO off.
For sure. I mean, I get it. It was just, and then here's where I want to like pull over though for like realistic police. Okay. My guy woke up next to a dead body. So the police are not gonna release you within 40 minutes of like, maybe they like, it doesn't matter. There's no way you're not at the police station all day. I know that this is a show and it was an IPO, but that was the only time when I was like, are you telling me the British police are that polite that they're like, oh, you got to go to work? Okay, carry on. Like, no, they would be like, bring your ass back.
They are different.
It is different, but I don't think I'll let you go to work, like, cheerio, go about your day different. I've watched Luther. I've seen every episode of Luther. I think they do have questioning. They do have holding cells, right? So anyway, I just think that was the only thing where I was like,
yeah, but they may have been able to tell like how she died on the scene, and then he would no longer be a
I still think he would have been there more than like, I guess he was there while Yasmin was on the way to work.
Because he woke up when he found her dead. The sun hadn't really come out yet. And then when he called Yasmin, but when the sun was
she was on the way to work though. Yeah, she was on the way to work.
He might have woke up at like 5 a.m. and then it's like 9.
I just don't think you get free to go within 6 hours of finding a dead body. But anyway, that was what I was like.
That's a good point.
I was like, all right, guys, you know, you're kind of just pushing the plot along here. But I did think that was compelling because it and what else is interesting about it is like, so this twists Eric from one direction to the other, because he gives him that coaching and he forgets all about firing him, because he was definitely about to fire his ass. Like that was, and the thing that's crazy about how they do this shit is like, they don't wait until like Fridays at 5. They will fire you Monday at 7:30 a.m. if they feel like it. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, like Robert said, what were we going to talk about? And so then he comes back around, he turns around and goes, Kenny. And I said, I know you're out loud in my house and said, I know you're fucking lying. I know you're fucking Kenny. Like that's what I just started like. This show is out of control.
That's not. If something happened important before then, when he comes back out, Kenny walks up to him and he asks Eric if he's good, and he says, "I can smell it on you. Maybe you should come to one of my meetings." And then he was like, I've had a relapse before. I understand what's going on. And then Eric says, "I'm not like you. I don't need your judgment." And he's like, "You know what? Let's go talk." And then Kenny walks in there, and then Kenny, and then Eric says, like, why are you acting like this? Like, I don't need you to judge me. And Kenny says, it's not judgment, it's empathy. And then Eric says, that's worse. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna have to let you go.
But I do believe that like he wasn't gonna do Yasmin because he's getting high with her. He was gonna do Robert. He let Robert go. So I feel like he actually was like Kenny was the only other option at that point, even if Kenny hadn't said anything. Like I don't know. I do feel like he just made a decision right there in that moment. And I think I think he also, to be honest, I think he also asked himself, well, what's the least pussy decision for me? And like the least pussy decision for me would be to fire the person who thinks that I'm nice, right? Like he had already laid the breadcrumb earlier of like, I wish I hadn't shown a vulnerable side to Kenny, right? So I think Kenny does, the fact that Kenny has seen him at his worst really threatens him because nobody else in that floor knows him outside of work. Like even Yasmin still saw him like about to get his dick sucked. You know what I'm saying? So like he's not. So I think it was all of that. I don't think it was just Kenny approaching him, but I do think that Kenny genuinely cared for him and saw him vulnerable. And I think Eric hates that because he doesn't feel like which is crazy because like the more you move up, the more you're supposed to be safe. But I think the more he moves up, the less he feels like he can be human. And so he even tells Kenny like, you didn't take me in because you are a good person and you're like really in recovery and you really believe in higher power. You took me in because it was pragmatic. And I fully believe that Kenny genuinely took him in because he showed up on his fucking doorstep. And if somebody's actually working a program, like you can't actually do the work of recovery and not open yourself up to other people who have problems that are trying to get out of it. And so I think that Kenny genuinely is working a program. I think he's genuinely sober. I think he genuinely saw a friend who needed sobriety. And then he's not wrong for being like, nigga, we are both on the wagon. So if you're coming to work high as shit and drunk, are you okay? And it was just like, worst day, worst timing, right, for him to check on him.
Well,
but I think Kenny was going to get it either way.
Kenny's wife calls
3 times,
leaves.
and we never figured out what that emergency was. She called him like 3 times.
While he's gone, Eric told him to take the call. While he's gone, Eric is like, I'm a man, I'm relentless. He's repeating that shit over and over again.
And that's why I felt like he was really trying to do the dog. He was like, I'm going to be a dog. That's on purpose.
He comes back in, he says,
I'm fucking wrongful termination, bitch. I'm taking you to court.
He said, I'm going to take you to a tribunal. Eric says, leave quietly or I'm going to bring up your history with a certain employee. He says, pack your fucking box and leaves.
And Yasmin, by the way, has already said, me and Kenny are good. Like, we had our moment, but I think we found a new balance. Like, they genuinely are on the same page now.
Kenny tells Eric to wipe himself against him because his Just for Men is dripping off his fucking head.
And it was dripping so bad. It was dripping so bad. He said, I pity you. You're ashamed of yourself. I pity you. And that's what I'm trying to say, though. Like, I think on some level, releasing Kenny, like, the good people have to leave this environment because releasing Kenny is valuable because Kenny is actually the only probably good person in that building.
Yeah. Eric's kids find coke in his jacket.
And Yasmin goes, here, you go play with this instead. It gives him an ink pen. And she's like, okay. She literally goes,
Eric comes back out, tells Sweet Pea to watch his kids. And then he says, my wife's punishing me. Then Eric yells to the team to get them pumped up. Then they cut to the Lumi IPO. Henry is going to ring the bell for the exchange. They hit the 480 mark. So everyone's excited. Henry asks Rob if it's more to Yasmin than just a photo.
Oh, wait. Sorry, one more thing real quick is that as Kenny's walking out, he tells Yasmin, how could you? And so I don't know if Yasmin had put it together yet, but at that point, Yasmin's like, oh, fuck, like he just told me he has to fire either me, Robert, or somebody above me. So I'm curious to see if Yasmin will, if we see Kenny again and Kenny and Yasmin have any. I would like to have that storyline cleaned up, but knowing this show, outside of Harper, when people get fired, they don't fucking come back to Pierpoint.
So then Henry asks Rob if there's more to Yasmin than just a photo.
Which, by the way, that's what I'm telling you. This nigga is about to ring the bell on the IPO of the startup he founded. He's asking about a woman who he saw for 20 minutes the night before. That's not romantic. So that's troublesome.
Henry tells him that they supply the energy for the exchange. Rob gives him a bit of a pep talk, tells him not to be nervous. When you do this, you're gonna feel alive. Henry tells Rob, "Good
well,
job."
Because he's asking him before that. He's like, is this gonna be worth it? Like, am I gonna fall off a cliff of disappointment because I actually achieved the thing I've been working for years, which is a very real thing.
He goes to ring the bell, and then the power goes fucking out. I was like, that's so fucking perfect.
Perfect timing. Perfect. That was such a good end to the episode. I think they set up a lot of shit, right? We're gonna clearly see Harper politicking, and like she has a plan. If there's anything I know, she has a plan. I don't think she's always been super strategic and thoughtful before, but she knows where she wants to get to. I don't know if we know where it is. I don't think it's back at Pierpoint, but I'd be curious to see if it is, like what the arc of this show is over like 5 seasons, whatever. Maybe it'll be a 4-season show like Succession. I don't know. We haven't seen Gus and Jesse Bloom. We may never see them again, but like they kind of told us the story of he's working for him going to America. We haven't seen I don't think we'll have these characters come back, but like the French boss is probably out for good. DVD's probably out for good. But Gus was an interesting character because he technically should have left, but he kept circling around. So I think he might be out as well. I was just trying to think we'll clearly have to figure out where Yasmin's dad is. We might see her mom again. Yasmin's old ex is out. Harper's first ex is out. So, I'm TBD and if we'll ever hear from Harper's brother again. But we have our like main set of characters here, and Rishi's back, so that's kind of comforting for me because otherwise we'd have only those 3, the 3 main characters and Eric, and I guess that's how life is or whatever, but I would like for this part of me longs for a little bit more longevity in like how they use the characters, but maybe that's just because I really think it's crazy to bring in like I guess this is how it happens, but like the way that they did DVD was crazy. Like one day that man's ID just did work. And it's just like I need them to like give me characters, give me some continuity. But yeah, I think they set up a season that's going to be a different tone at least.
I agree. So that was episode 1. I am so excited about this season. I can't wait to watch episode 2 next week. Thank you all for listening. Remember, if you want to talk to us about episode 1 or give us any theories about episode 2, you can email us at wewasdragonspod@gmail.com. And if you like this episode, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Please.
And we would really appreciate that, and we will read it on the show.
Yep. And also go to Twitter or x.com/wewasbanking, BANKING, like the show that you're listening to right now. Please start following us on Twitter because that way we will start to put out updates that will keep you guys up to date on like if episodes are late, what we're thinking about. We're trying to build that out. Also, we might potentially want to stream onto X, and we need to have the people there to do it. So please follow if you can.
All right, say the thing.
I don't. Oh yeah. Sorry. Buy the dip.